Professor Chomsky, I wanted to get your thoughts on the impeachment investigation. Today, the Senate will vote to inevitably acquit Donald Trump. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on whether this was an effort that was worth pursuing for the Democrats.
It was completely obvious from the beginning that the impeachment proceedings would be a significant gift to Donald Trump, which is exactly the way they turned out. From the first moment, it was plain that this is a total farce. I'm sure you watched the performance where Chief Justice John Roberts tried to keep a straight face while he was swearing in the senators, each of whom pledged that no partisan issue would possibly influence their judgment and behavior. And of course, as everyone knew would happen, they immediately proceeded to violate the oath by acting completely along partisan lines. The main issue that the impeachment focused on was whether Donald Trump had used presidential powers in an illegal way to undermine a leading figure in the Democratic Party. Okay, that's wrong. But is that the worst crime you can think of Donald Trump having committed? In fact, it's rather reminiscent of Watergate. What was Richard Nixon's crime? There were efforts by Robert Greene and a couple of other senators to introduce Nixon's major crimes, and they were huge, into like the bombing of Cambodia, into the impeachment proceedings, but they were knocked out. And the only thing that was left was that Nixon had a bunch of thugs break into the Democratic Party headquarters. What does this suggest? It suggests, and I'll leave it to you to figure it out, but what it does indicate is that the major issues were off the agenda. It was obvious from the start that the Republicans, who are completely in Trump's pocket, would vote to acquit no matter what the facts are, and that he would then triumphantly declare victory. So it's a gift to Donald Trump and a farcical proceeding which can't possibly be taken seriously. Now, why the Democrats decided to do that, I have no idea. The outcome, how it would turn out, was never seriously in doubt.
Well, you just touched on something that's been incredibly frustrating for anyone who's been paying close attention to this impeachment investigation, hoping that it would be something that would maybe point to Donald Trump's possible financial ties or financial crimes along with foreign governments, or his war crimes. Those were issues that weren't brought up. And so while one can only speculate as to why, I want to share my speculation with you and get your thoughts, because, and again, this is something that I think a lot of progressives in the media get criticized for pointing out. I don't believe that there's a significant difference between the corporate Republicans or the corporate Democrats. I think that when it comes to war crimes, when it comes to possible financial crimes, when it comes to corruption, when it comes to undermining our democratic process, both corporate Democrats and Republicans are very much in agreement. Do you think that that's the possibility behind why Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats decided to not bring up Donald Trump's possible financial crimes?
Well, personally, I don't doubt that Donald Trump has committed many personal financial crimes, but that is so low on the ranking of his crimes that I don't really think it matters. Mm-hmm. But let's take a close look at it. Here is a man who has torn to shreds the major international treaties. The Paris negotiations are very weak, but at least there's something. Mm-hmm. At least other countries are trying to do something, sometimes not insignificant, sometimes just hand-waving, to try to deal with a crisis that is going to destroy organized human life within a few generations. It's not a minor fact.
Right.
There's the threat of nuclear war is very serious. One of the things that's constrained it is that there have been arms control agreements, like, for example, the Reagan-Gorbachev INF treaty, which eliminated short-range nuclear weapons in Europe, which are extremely destabilizing. Okay, Trump tore it up. And not only that, brazenly, right after dismantling the treaty last August, immediately launched a test of a missile which violates the treaty, just to plead with the Russians, please develop weapons to destroy us. How serious is all of this? Well, take a look at what is probably the most reasonable general assessment of world affairs that we have, the doomsday clock of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. As I'm sure you know, a couple of weeks ago, they gave their annual assessment, and it broke the record since 1947. They assessed the current situation as the most dangerous in the world since the first setting of the doomsday clock, 100 seconds to midnight. Did any of this come up in the hearings? I mean, here's a person who is acting virtually alone in the world scene with a wrecking ball that's devastating the hopes for a decent survival for human beings. Young people seem to understand this. Mm-hmm. Very striking moment at the meeting of the people called the Masters of the Universe, the Davos meetings a couple of weeks ago. The first day was utterly dramatic. First, the most powerful person in the world gave a speech extolling his own magnificence and saying on the side we should not be alarmists about the climate, we should not be doomsayers and so on, while he's going on to destroy and wrecking it in the lead in the world. And it was followed by a 17-year-old girl, Greta Thunberg, who gave a quiet, factual lecture to the associated great men, showing how a responsible adult would act in the current world. Astonishing spectacle, quite different from the impeachment proceedings, which were off on some side issues where the outcome was certain and the structure was farcical from the beginning. Well, you just don't say that kind of thing. It's not proper, but it's significant. On the other hand, about the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, yes, there are differences. The Republicans, but both parties, have drifted to the right in the last 30 or 40 years, roughly the neoliberal period. Today's what you call the establishment Democrats, Clinton-style New Democrats, they're basically what used to be called moderate Republicans. The Republicans are just going off the spectrum. They're not acting like a parliamentary party anymore. I think this has been pointed out by some of the political analysts, Norman Ornstein, Thomas Mann, just call them a radical insurgency, which has abandoned parliamentary politics. If you look at international rankings of parties from what's called left to right, meaning mostly centered to far right, the Republicans are ranked with the fringe parties, the parties with neo-fascist roots in the international scene, way off to the right. The Democrats are ranked basically centrist. Well, those differences may not be huge, but they are significant. In a system with extraordinary power, small differences can translate into huge outcomes. So again, on the issues that I mentioned, the crucial issues like environmental catastrophe, nuclear war, there are differences, significant ones. Whatever you think about Obama and Clinton, they would never have been doing what Trump has been doing to wreck the hope for some kind of mitigation of the coming environmental catastrophe. These are not small points. These are existential issues.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.